Hi everyone, how are you doing today? This is Tanya from Widow2Widow. I hope you all are having a magnificent day on this Friday evening. We're doing Flourish. This is day 2, I believe. Day 2 of Flourish. And I again get excited when I sing this, because this is what God wants for us, and this is our season that He's doing it in. And to read what flourish mean in the dictionary, let me see if I can. Okay, this is from the Oxford Language Dictionary. It says flourish is of a person, animal, or living organism, for it to grow or develop in a healthy or vigorous way, especially as a result of a particular favorable environment. And let me see what this one says. Number 2, of a person, wave, or something around to attract the attention of others. Happy New Year, he yelled, flourishing a bottle of whiskey. We're not talking about that kind, although that kind would be evident, but we're talking about the kind where they give you example of wild plants flourish on the banks of lakes. You know, we flourish because the God in us that's doing work in us and that has done work in us, and in our season, that's what He does. Those things, those works, those actions that we've done, it becomes noticeable to people. So on yesterday, it was the part for me when it says God knows everything about you, child of God. That's what He said. He loves you unconditionally. He created you in His image and fashion with love and purpose. God calls you His masterpiece. I mean, how could you not be rejoicing? How could you not be rejoicing when reading that and letting that penetrate to you? As to, I'm not by the window today, so I'm hot. When I'm by the window, I'm cold, and I have anything around me on. My house cold, my hoodie, whatever, but I'm hot. So forgive me, excuse me. And I dress like this because it's warm in here. So I dress like this all year long. But by the windows, I need my hoodie or something on. So, I mean, reading that yesterday, we're not going to go into that. That was yesterday's. Hopefully you went on and read it again and got even more understanding and meditated over it, because that's the whole purpose of this, to apply it to our lives and to ask God, where could we improve with ourselves, you know, and thank Him for the improvement that He's done in us already, and the levels of healing, the levels and layers of healing that we've been through, and that He's just so mighty and great that He just always have our best interests at heart. And today's number 2, it says take decisive actions. Okay, so faith without work is dead. James 2:17. Ruth and Naomi arrived in Beth-lehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. One day Ruth said to Naomi, "Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain behind anyone whose eyes I favor." Ruth 2:2 NIV. Naomi agreed. Why field work? Possibly because of God's instructions in Leviticus 23:22 NLT that states, when you harvest the crops of your land, do not harvest the grains along the edge of your fields, and do not pick up what the harvester dropped. Leave it for the poor and the foreigner living amongst you. I am the Lord your God. And that instruction right there, I mean, like I say, when we make life much more complicated for our own selfish reasons, usually. And the instructions is right in the Bible, what to do, how to treat one another, how to give to the poor, how to give to the needy, how to give to the community, how to give and help the widow, and let me just stay on track because I got a lot of stuff that comes to mind when I talk about the homeless and the widows and the churches and the people that's running the churches. And when I say stuff like that, it's because it needs to be talked about. It's not to drag the churches down, because I am for churches, the building, and I'm also for churches, the human being. And both of them need to line up with God. And if we line up as human being with God, then our churches will be in line as well. We have to do a better job, especially taking care of the poor and the widows, because from what I've experienced, maybe it's different from others. And thank God for those who it is different for and have a different story. I got to experience both of those. And I used to read that as a child and wonder how do it really work. This is amazing. The churches take care of the homeless, and they take care. When I knew what a widow was, a widow, is certain things that God brings your eyes to for whatever reason you don't understand. You just go with the flow. You go with whatever God tells you to do, and as you get older, you understand much more, especially after you walk in your life. But I want to kind of stay on track. But that's just a thing, a soft spot in my heart when we talk about the homeless and the widow, and how you read it in the Bible. And if these churches would just do what they're told to do as well, again, if we have the right people who's lining up with God in these churches, over these boards, over these leaders, period, I should say, then we will have a dynamite kingdom. So if we stop messing it up and just do what he tells us to do, and trust that that's going to bring us all, even our fleshly part, to a happy place. But we're going to keep praying on that. Okay, so poor and the foreigner, Ruth fit both categories. God gilded Ruth to Boaz's field. Aware of Ruth's loyalty to Naomi, Boaz kindly invited Ruth to join his workers and instruct them. Let her glean where there's still plenty of grain on the ground. Make it easy for her. Better yet, pull some of the good stuff out and leave it to her to glean. Give her special treatment. Ruth 2:15-16 Message Version. I am smiling from ear to ear, y'all, because this is what God does to us widows. He makes it easy for us. We lose our loved ones, widows and a widower, the man who lost his wife, and us widows who we've lost our husbands. And I remember the word kept coming that everything is going to be easy. It's going to be easy. Yes, you're in this stage of your life. You're X amount of years old. I'm 50 now, and I was in my 40s then. And it was like, okay, God, now I have to start all over. Like, I don't mind working, I don't, but this is difficult for anybody to have to start all over in certain areas of their lives to get where they were, because you were mistreated, you was taken advantage of, you was stolen from, you had stuff set up that the system, the people, the insurance company, these jobs you work at, they don't go follow through on their end of it, and they leave you in a situation. Now you have to start over, not just start over, but start over on something that you already had a plan for, and a plan for, and a plan for. And all I keep hearing God say then, and I trust him, was, don't even worry about it. You're going to get all that back plus more. So I knew to keep trusting his process. I haven't seen that money yet that he's talking about, but I know it's here. I know to trust his word. And that's where the action part takes, over when it says take decisive actions, because I know good and well, God never lied to me. I know good and well the situations I was in, I shouldn't have been in. If I just sit back and really think about it logically, you had insurance here, a whole lot of insurance. You had insurance there, but because of the situation, that more than doubled there. So you were covered all over. And one other third person we want to talk about. And another. So you have about 3 or 4 different incomes or financial stowaways that should have been provided for you, and none of them was, and God allowed it. That let me know I was in for something. I was in for a mission. Whatever it was, I just said right away, God, I don't understand it, but I trust you. Send me, I'll go. And watch, when you say that, you better mean it. You know, I mean it every time I say yes, and every time I say, send me, I'll go. It's something in me that knowing what I've been through, I still can't resist God and what he wants. Because I know whatever comes is more than a one-way thing. He's not just putting you through these things to cause you harm, but he's also like training you for something else, for another level, another blessing. So that's the part I choose to keep my eyes focused on. And you really have to be in a certain mental place to be able to do that. That's why it's important for us to get our mental together, that we can stay and be quiet in one room if we need to be half of a day. That will kill some people, you know, to have to do that. You know, I went through my stages throughout the anxiety and depression where I couldn't sit that long. My mind will always race. I couldn't even meditate. And I just want to make sure I get back on track. Sorry. All right. So God guided Ruth to Boaz's field. Aware of Ruth's loyalty to Naomi, Boaz kindly invited Ruth to join his workers and instructed them, let her glean where there's still plenty of grain on the ground. Make it easy for her. Better yet, pull some of the good stuff out and leave it for her to glean. Give her special treatment. Ruth 2:15-16 Message version. All right, that's what got me hyped. So Ruth first day haul of a large basket of grain and lunch left over amazed Naomi, who had been so generous. Ruth said, Boaz. Knowing Boaz to be a wealthy, close relative and caregiver responsibilities to them, Naomi acknowledged God's faithfulness and her own misjudgment. In Ruth 2:20 message, she marveled, why God blessed that man. God hasn't quite walked out on us after all. He still loves us in bad times as well as good. Yes, Naomi, God's love is steadfast and sure. So sure that Ruth could step into unknown fields, expectant of finding favor and food to live on. Why? Because God has decreed the extensive of goodness and mercy to gleaners well in advance of Ruth's need. Okay, reflection of today's devotion. Consider your difficult situation. What do you have or what can you do to better this situation? Okay. And I'm smiling because, again, I got some things I really want to say to just the widows. We got to get our Widow2Widow group together. And that will be on Facebook. I have it set up already. I just haven't really been, I guess, actively looking or putting the request out for widows. So consider this another, I have, but not often, a formal request to look me up on Facebook. My Widow2Widow group is attached to my Facebook Widow2Widow page. And I'll connect it in here because there's some things, oh my God, he touched me with the widows. Oh my God, he touched me with something that I just wanted to share to the widows. It's only for you anyway. And in this group, we do have some divorcees or divorced people, whether it's man or woman. I'm thinking with the Widow2Widow group will be men, women mainly, but if there's a widow, a man who lost their wife, we surely not kicking them out. He's welcome too because we're still one. We're still one. And it's also to, in this group will be those who have been divorced because that's also as well as like a death. You know, that thing is dead now. That thing that was supposed to live until you physically die is dead. And some of the same things and the struggles that us who lost our spouses to an actual physical death, we still carry those same emotions. It's still mourning and grieving. So, all right, okay, let me get back on track. So, ask God for wisdom concerning the steps you should take. Please remember, a condition for God's provision of wisdom is asking in faith, James 1:6. Number 3, that was number 2. Number 3, wait for God's response. Don't just pray, thank him for it, because he said what we ask for in prayer, if we walk on the right before him, he's going to give us desires of our hearts, and if it's in his will, if it's lining up with his will and his way. So that's why it's important to meditate, read, and find out what is his way, what is his will. You know, he plants in us what our desires are. So if we pay attention to the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, then we can be on one accord with him. So, and then we have to sit and be quiet and have our time where nothing's on our mind and we just waiting to hear from God, to hear what he's saying to our spirit, to hear that sweet response, that sweet voice. And number 4 is act in accordance with his response. Do what it is that he's asking you to do. Okay, so note to God's instruction, Leviticus 23:22. Okay, note God's instructions. Leviticus 23:22 directly addressed Ruth's situation, so her identification of appropriate, decisive actions was straightforward long before her need. God has prepared a means of providing for her. Ruth just had to gather what he had set aside for us. And that's where we at. You know, as widows, a lot of times we just have to gather what God set aside for us. He's not here to hurt us or make us suffer. Although we suffer, is not to gain, just to be because he's mean. It's for a reason. It's for a purpose. And we suffer when we lose our other half, you know, our other part. I know it was very, very difficult because at one point in time, my husband and I were very close. And we did everything together, and we went everywhere together. You know, he didn't like flying, so we made I told him, if you go, when we go to Jamaica for our wedding and get married over there and do our honeymoon over there, I won't ever ask you to fly again. Anything we do, we could do by transportation of a vehicle. We could drive. And I stayed to my promise, and he accepted it, and that's what we did. And then towards the end of his life, when I used to try to just find ways to get him out the house because he was just deteriorating, and I seen that with my own eyes, I would try to find places we can go. You know, he couldn't drive any longer because things were getting worse, so I had to pick that up and be the driver everywhere we go. I didn't care about that. Then he got to a point where he wanted to fly on a plane. I mean, we were only going to Canada this year, but since he had said it this year, we did it. Instead of driving, we flew. And because we always went to the waterfall. I love the water. I love the water and the waterfalls. So we were kind of hooked at Marriott over on the Canada side. Funny, I've never been on New York side, and I'm living in New York now. But I've never been. I said I do want to go on our side of the United States on the to see the waterfall, but I just have not been yet. And forgive me for getting off track again. But all right. So spiritual encouragement for taking decisive action, Joshua 1:8 NLT. Study this book of instructions continuously. Meditate on it day and night, so you will be sure to obey everything written in it. Obey, then will you prosper and succeed in all you do. Deuteronomy 31:8 NIV. The Lord himself goes before you, and the Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. And let me see how many scriptures, if I'm going to read them all, because I kind of went over what I was trying to do. I can read a couple of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of them. I may list them in a video if you want to read them all, or I may read them all real quick. I don't know. So James 2:17. Thus also faith by itself, if it does not. Oh, this is New King James Version. I have it on. Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. I had it on something else last night. Ruth 2:1 through 23. I'm just going to read 1 to like 3. There was a relative of Naomi's husband, a man of great wealth of the family of Elimelech, Elimelech. Some of these names I don't know. Some of them I know by hearing, not by seeing the correct spelling of it. So when I see the correct spelling, it just messes me up. His name was Boaz. So Ruth and Moabite said to Naomi, please let me go to the field and glean heads of grain after him, in whose sight I may find favor. And God said to her, go, my daughter. Verse 3, then she left and went and gleaned in the fields after the reapers, and she happens to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of, that name again, Elimelech. I want to say Elimelech. I don't know. So then from, I think 4, I said, to 23, you can kind of read on your own. I may list it in the descriptions. And don't forget to check out the community page as well on my page, the community section, because I'll be putting certain things in there, or certain videos. I'm starting to put stuff on different channels in the community section. So check those things out as well. And don't forget to like them and comment. James 1, 5 and 7. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting. For he who doubts is like a wave of sea driven and tossed by the wind. For let not that man purpose that he will receive anything from the Lord. Psalms 37, 5 through 7. Commit your way to the Lord, trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. He shall bring forth your righteousness and the light, and your justice as the noonday. 7. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who brings wicked schemes to pass. So verse 7 again, I want to read. It says, rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who brings wicked schemes to pass. Don't fall for the wicked schemes. Keep it moving. Don't want to do it because you see it's working for someone else, because it's not working. It's an illusion. Proverbs 16:3. Commit your works to the Lord, and your thoughts will be established. Joshua 1:8. Look like 8 and 9. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night. How many times we done heard the word meditating since I've been reading today? That you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For them you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. I commanded you. Have I commanded not you? Okay, I got that all wrong. Verse 9. Joshua 1, verse 9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you everywhere, wherever you go. And that is Flourish Day 2 of Flourish by Dr. Stephanie L. Foster. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed it. And I hope you all have an amazing day on purpose. And let's talk about this in the comments.